Hello everyone and welcome back to STEM Sprouts. Today we're going to be talking about electricity and circuits. So electricity is a power that we use every day to power things like our lights and our other things like our stoves, microwaves, all that kind of stuff can use electricity. And we're also going to talk about circuits. And circuits are a circle that are created to light light bulbs. So today we're going to be making an insulating dough that does not carry electricity through it, and a conductive dough that carries electricity through it. So come with me and we will make our doughs together. So for the first dough that we're going to be making the insulating dough. You will need some vegetable oil. I have 2 containers here, a tray, you can use a cookie tray, some flour, I have a big bag here, and then also granulated sugar. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to put 1 cup of flour in one container and 1/2 cup of flour in the other container. So here I have a cup of flour going into one. And then I have about 1/2 cup of flour going into my other container. So this 1/2 cup of flour we're going to set off to the side. We're going to need that later. And then we will need to take this one and add 1/2 cup of sugar. I have about 1/2 cup of sugar, and then you can use a spoon or whatever you have and mix it together. You want to make sure that all of these things get fully incorporated. Okay, and then we will need 3 tablespoons of oil. So I'm going to take my spoon and I'm just going to measure out about 3 tablespoons. There we go, I have 3, and then you're going to mix it up again. It should start to make kind of a clumpy, kind of shaggy looking dough. So I have my loose dough here, and then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of deionized water or distilled water. I'm going to add 1, then stir, add another, then stir, and add 3 in total and stir, so that our dough doesn't get too runny. We want to make sure that the proportion is correct. So this is kind of the texture that you want. You kind of want it to look like sand or maybe like a really loose cookie dough. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it out onto our tray here. It's okay if you have to scoop a little bit out of here. And then you're going to try to knead it with your hands into a cohesive dough. Now I'll come back when mine is a good ball. So here is my insulating dough. I got it into a nice round ball. I had to add about 2 tablespoons more of water The flour that we set aside was just in case you needed to flour your countertop or anything like that, so you could have used that flour as well. But I didn't need to add flour, I needed to add water, so mine is a little bit easier. It's nice and pliable, it should feel like Play-Doh. So this will be one half of our experiment. So now we are going to go and we are going to make our conductive dough, and this will help create electricity. So now for making our conductive dough, we need to move over to the stove. So you're going to need an adult's help with this, and you will also need a sauce pot, some water, flour, vegetable oil, cream of tartar, salt, and food coloring, because we want to make sure that it looks different enough from our insulating dough that we made earlier. So the first thing that you are going to need to do is you are going to mix your water, flour, salt, cream of tartar, vegetable oil, and food coloring all in this pot together. So I have 1 cup of flour that I'm going to add. I pre-measured 1 cup of water. We are going to need a 1/4 cup of salt. So I have my 1/4 cup measure here. I'm going to fill it with salt. Shake it, add a little bit more. Okay, so there's my 1/4 cup of salt. I'm going to add that in there too. You'll need 3 tablespoons of cream of tartar. So I have my tablespoon here. And I'm going to use 2 hands and put 3 tablespoons of cream of tartar into this container, and I'll show you when that's done. Okay, so I added my cream of tartar in there, so that's 3 tablespoons of that. And then I'm going to take my vegetable oil and I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of that. So all my ingredients are in my pot, and I'm just going to grab a spoon real quick, and we're going to mix this up just a little bit before we start heating it, because we're going to have to heat it together too. So it's going to be a little sticky at first. Okay, I think I have incorporated it as much as I can. It's pretty goopy right now, so it's a little hard to stir with one hand. So I'm going to turn this on to medium heat. So let's put it to medium down there, and we are going to cook it over medium heat, stirring continuously, and then the mixture will begin to thicken and lumps will be starting to form. So I'm going to wait till this heats up and then I'll show you what happens. So I mixed my mixture up and it started to look like frosting. It was really smooth, but now the more that I mix it, the more it heats up, it's becoming kind of clumpy. And you want to keep going and mixing until this pulls away from the pot and forms one nice big ball. So the dough that I made isn't sticking to the pot anymore. It looks pretty well cooked. So I'm going to turn my burner off. And we are going to let this sit and cool down. You can let it sit overnight if you'd like to. But then we are going to roll it into a big ball and let it cool for a few minutes. So here we have our conductive dough. It's still a little hot, but I put it on a floured tray, and then when it cools a little bit more, you can roll it out and then roll it into a ball and let it sit for a little bit so it can continue to cool down. Mine isn't too hot to the touch, so I'm going to do a little bit of kneading, but for kneading you want to push it forward and then pull it back, and then push it forward again and then pull it back. And you want to keep doing this until you get a nice ball formed. If it's still too hot for your hands, you can let it sit for a little bit longer before you knead it. And when you knead the dough, it's what gives it the strength to stretch out and makes it pliable. And this way then it won't break. Okay. And you can roll it around a little bit. Try to get it into a ball shape. And then you can wait for it to cool down more. So now that our doughs are put together, here's my conductive dough. And here is my insulated dough. They're gonna have a different texture to them. One's gonna be a little more sticky, and you can use more flour to make it less sticky, but I'm gonna leave mine a little bit sticky so that I can tell the difference between the two. And here is my conductive dough. It's a little bit softer. I let it cool all the way so it's not as hot anymore. And we're going to use these to create a circuit. So a circuit is an electrical circle, essentially. So at one side there will be our light bulb, and then at the other side will be our batteries. So here I have a tiny little LED light bulb, and that's what we are going to be using today. We're going to be using one of those. We also need our conductive dough and our insulating dough. We'll also need some batteries. And then you can use a battery pack, otherwise you can also use batteries attached to some wire as well. Just be very careful. So inside my battery pack are 2 batteries already, and I have mine switched to off. Anytime you move the wires, you want it to be switched to off. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take some of your conductive dough, and you can make any shape that you want, but the shapes cannot be touching. So I'm going to make 2 circles to start. So I'm just going to roll it in my hands, make a ball. I'm going to do the same thing again. So here's my other one. And I'm going to put 1 wire into one ball and 1 wire into the other ball. So this is an open circuit right now. So they don't touch on the top part, but they do touch on the bottom part because of the battery pack. And then what you're going to do is you're going to slide your light bulb, and my light bulb has 2 little legs on them, and you want to spread the legs apart very gently and put one in one of the balls and one in the other, but make sure that they don't touch. So now this is the circuit, so when we turn it on, the light bulb should go on. Yep, so mine glows red, but it's very faint, so I'll give you a closer look. So here is my little red light bulb glowing. I have one of the doughs there, and then here's my battery pack that's switched to on. But now I'm going to turn off my battery pack, and we're going to try using insulating dough. So insulating dough helps us so that the circuit doesn't get messed up. So if these 2 things in the middle were to touch like this, our light bulb wouldn't turn on. So let's turn it back on. See, the light bulb didn't switch on. But when I move them away, the light bulb starts to glow again. So we're going to use some insulating dough in here so that we can keep our circuit. So I took a chunk out of my insulating dough, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to put it in between the 2 balls that I made earlier, so that hopefully it will keep the circuit. So I have a small piece of my insulating dough in the middle of my circuit, and I have my light bulb in each of the conductive doughs. So now I'm going to switch mine to on. We'll see if this works. Yep, my little light bulb is glowing red. It's very faint, but you can kind of see it. So the insulating dough keeps the circuit closed. So if both of the ends of the conductive dough touch, it turns the light bulb off because the circuit is technically ruined. So we put a little bit of insulator in the middle so that they don't touch and it will close the circuit. So that's the same thing with wires. So the wires that are on this box, if they didn't have the red and the black on them, the circuit wouldn't work. So I took some of our conductive dough and some of our insulating dough, and I put conductive here, here, and here, and then I put insulating dough in the body of what I think is a moth. It's kind of moth shaped. So I have those in there. So now let's see if the circuit runs. Put one in here, and we gotta put one over here, and we're gonna turn on the box. There it goes. So you can make your dough into different shapes too. You just want to make sure that the conductive dough is not touching other conductive dough. It can touch the insulating dough like in the middle here, but it can't touch the other conductive dough directly. It can only touch through the wires of the light bulb. But I hope you guys enjoyed that lesson today, and I hope you try it at home as well. If you do, please leave a picture or a video down below, because we love seeing that you guys are doing these activities with us. But otherwise, thanks, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!